welcome to chapter 21 of The Night I Met Father Christmas by Ben Miller. Down fell Torval, bouncing from branch to branch, sometimes landing on his bottom, sometimes on his belly, and once or twice on his chin, which was really rather painful indeed. Now and then he tried to grasp a branch in order to slow his descent, and each time he did so there was a spluttering sound, and it came away in his hand. Just when it seemed he would continue buffled and tuffled forever, he came to an abrupt halt on something very hard and very flat. It took Torval a few seconds to realise the hard and flat thing in question was his own bedroom floor, and that the branches he had thought he was tangled up in were actually his bedclothes. Opening his eyes, he ran a swift check to see if any of his bones were broken, but it seemed, miracle of miracles, that he was all in one piece. He looked at the clock on his bedside table. It was little after 4 in the morning. There was no point trying to get back to sleep, so he might as well head into work. He could get a head start in the stock take. But first there was something he needed to check. Torval took a big, deep breath, walked to his window and pulled back his shutters. To his great relief, there in the front garden, swaying in the wind, was the same old fir tree. There was no signs of a muddy trail or broken branches. So there was proof it had all been a dream. There was no talking reindeers, no talking trees, no early Christmas feast at Steiner's house, and no bicycle for Steiner's daughter Kitty. And since none of these things had happened, he decided there was no need whatsoever for him to feel guilty. With that settled in his mind, Torval emerged from his front door in what felt like a jolly mood, and he felt even jollier when he realised he was just in time to catch one of a few passenger sleighs that day. What a treat lay ahead! A whole day of going through all the items of stock in the toy shop, together with their price to calculate this year's profit, without being bothered by pesky customers. The very thought made him chuckle with glee. Torval's house was last on the forest road, and usually he had the whole sleigh to himself until he reached the edge of the town. On that particular morning, however, just as they reached the densest part of the forest, a dark figure stepped from the tree into the path. The driver pulled to a halt and an elderly lady climbed aboard. A ragged black shawl covered her head and shoulders, and she was very stooped, so it was impossible to see her face. She was feeling her way along a long walking stick, and Torval quickly realised that she must be blind. For the briefest of moments he felt the urge to help her, but managed to overcome it. She was probably a beggar, he told himself, and only pretended to be blind to make people sorry for her. Well, he wouldn't give her a penny. "Good morning," said the little old lady politely as she staggered and swayed up the aisle. "Is there a spare seat here by any chance?" Of course, with the rest of the sleigh empty, there was no one to answer her, so each time she simply shrugged and moved on. "Good morning," she said again. "Is there a spare seat by any chance?" Torval folded his arms and crossed his legs and pretended to be fascinated by the passing scenery. And as he did so, the copper elf's coin fell out of his pocket and rolled onto the floor. The old lady's eyelids might have been poor, but her hearing was excellent. With one swift move into her walking stick, she pinned the coin to the floorboards. Then, steadying herself with one hand, she bent to pick it up. "I'm so sorry," said Torval quickly. "That belongs to me." The old lady frowned. "Do I know you, sir?" she asked. "I don't think so," said Torval. "Your voice, it sounds familiar." "I have a shop in town," said Torval. "Perhaps you are a lover of high-quality toys." "No," said the old lady, shaking her head. "That's not it. What's your name, if you don't mind me asking?" "Torval." "What's your surname?" said the old lady. "Christmas. Torval Christmas." "Ah," said the old lady, pulling back her shawl. "This really is a very unusual coin," she said, examining it with her fingertips. "Is that a reindeer I can feel there?" Yes, I think it's a reindeer," said Torval, wishing she would give the coin back. It was extremely valuable after all. "And next to it, is that a fir tree?" "Possibly," said Torval. "And what's this strange creature?" A bear? Creature, said Torval. There's something around its neck, and the old lady's scarf maybe? That's funny, said Torval. I never noticed that before. Let me see. Well, I think that's a snowman, a penguin perhaps. I said I think it's a snowman, said Torval loudly, and he tried to take the coin in his grasp, but the old lady held onto it firmly and drew him close. Don't you recognise me? She said in a low voice. I think you must have me confused with someone else, said Torval, slightly alarmed. I don't think so. I would never forget you, Torval Christmas. I named you, after all. For a few seconds, Torval's face was as blank as a field of fresh snow. And then, Mrs. Turrell, he asked. He could see it now. Her face might be wrinkled, but those were quite definitely Miss Turrell's bright eyes. How's Gerda? She asked. Are you still two in touch? Of course you are. How could you not be? Torval gave a little awkward laugh. With a fine jacket, he said, feeling the collar of his red velvet suit. You must be rich. Not really, said Torval awkwardly. Tell me, she said, did you ever bring presents to the children at the orphanage, like you said you would? I, said Torval, but no other words came out. I thought so, she replied. You always were such a lovely boy. Smiling, she placed the coin in Torval's gloved palm and closed his fingers around it. The driver was slowing for the next stop, and Torval saw that they were approaching the orphanage. By the time he looked back, the old lady was halfway down the aisle. Mr. he called, as she made her way towards the front of the sleigh. He needed to talk to her, to prove to himself that Torval, as she knew, the kind, thoughtful Torval, was still there, deep inside him. Please wait! But the old lady didn't seem to hear him. There was still a good few kilometres from town, and there would be no other sleigh for at least an hour. But Torval didn't think twice. As quick as he could, he gathered up his things and headed after her.